guys, and welcome to Piano and Keyboard Artist, where we discuss the artists related to pianos, keyboards and synthesizers. And my guest, very special guest, regular appearance, Mr. Brian Griffin.
Hi folks.
Brian, how are you today?
Pretty good. A bit hot and sweaty. It's it's good. I feel really on top form, ready to rock.
No sunglasses today, Brian.
No, I thought I'd make a change, and you can see how young I am. You know?
Yeah, because some people were saying, why is Brian always wearing sunglasses? Is the lighting too tough?
Well, it's pretty bright.
Yeah, well, I said, it goes with a rock star persona. I can't wear...
I want to look like Ringo.
Ringo. You're much cool. Well, the thing is, I can't wear sunglasses inside because I'm not a rock star. So
Yeah.
So you've got to have achieved a lot in order to reserve the right to wear sunglasses indoors, I think.
Oh, that's very, very kind of you.
Anyway, guys, so as you know, this is part of the album review series where I'm reviewing all Depeche Mode albums from Speak and Spell all the way to their current album, Spirit. And as you know, I get Brian in tandem with this series where we review the Brian Griffin album covers. And as you all know, Brian Griffin did all the artwork for all the album covers from Speak and Spell all the way to Black Celebration. Now, we've already discussed Speak and Spell, we discussed A Broken Frame, and now it's Depeche Mode's third studio album, Construction Time Again. And this is one of my favorite and many of your favorite covers. And I'm delighted to have Brian here today, who's going to discuss everything that he remembers about this, bearing in mind that this was 1983, just the other day. So I guess what I'm going to ask you is, Brian, anything you can remember. Let's start with, as we did, 1983. I remember watching a documentary where Daniel Miller said he said he can't remember exactly how he had the conversation with you, but apparently one of the band members said they had the idea of a man on a mountain hitting something. So where did it go from there?
Yeah, I'm quite happy to accept whoever came up with a concept, really. Maybe at times I might have done, at times they did, at times Daniel Miller maybe did. Yeah. But whatever we think of these early concepts, I mean, they were very good and they really fitted in with my feeling towards the worker. As people know, generally in my photography, I was really into photographing the worker.
That's true, because the work, A Broken Frame was a worker, and this is a worker.
Absolutely. And so I was really happy about it. And to me, I think it's my favourite, really. I even prefer it to A Broken Frame.
Oh, this is your favourite one?
Yeah.
And what's interesting is, Brian, obviously, whenever Brian would take photos, if you look at the photo on the back there'd be a whole series of these photos, and of course, the band would be given all these photos, and it was up to them to decide which one they wanted as an album cover.
Well, it was a combined effort. I mean, obviously Daniel would have had a lot of power, Daniel Miller, that is, and Martin Atkins would have had quite a strong say as well, because he was gradually developing into being a more, can we say, more involved with Mute Records than when he initially got involved way back on the second album, which is A Broken Frame. He started to get more and more involvement and much more power and control by
so he had a lot of say in the matter.
Yeah, I would have thought so. I thought they would really have listened to him. Exactly. And they would have listened to the band. I mean, the band are really lovely guys, you know. They're not full of their egos, actually. They're very easy to work with. Yeah. They're very humble guys, and they're really nice to work with. And it would have been a very gentle conversation. I wasn't there. I have to tell you now, I wasn't there during the conversation of which image should be the album cover. And you know, I've spoken about that many times.
Absolutely. And guys, at the end of this is going to be a nice long episode. We're going to go into a lot of detail. But at the end, I want to show you some of the exclusive prints that Brian has, or posters, images, yeah, that Brian has made exclusively available to this channel. And coming to that, Brian, you had another image that you would have preferred to have as the album cover, which is the image which they're now using as in the Saarbrücken. That was the one you would have preferred as an album cover.
Yeah, there's two absolute preferences at that point in time I had. One was the same situation as the cover is, like the guy on the side of the ledge of the mountain, overlooking the Matterhorn. But slightly his back is more turned towards us. That was my absolute favourite. My second favourite is what we made a poster of, and what is the poster for my exhibition in Saarbrücken, which opens, I think, on the 22nd of this month, I think, in Germany. Those two images are my absolute favourites. I'm not against this image in the sense that I think it's very powerful. Of course, I think it's very powerful. But if I was put against the wall and said, come on, what's your favourites? I would have said those are the two. One, that's the one we made a poster of, which I'm signing and dedicating to anybody who purchases it. And two is this other one where he's slightly turned away. He's slightly turned away from the camera, up the same mountain, the same position. And that's in the Saarbrücken, well, in my pop show, which is going to be shown in Saarbrücken, obviously, for a month.
If I can just interject there, guys, we're going to go into a lot of detail about these poster images at the end, the ones that Brian's made exclusively available to my channel. But I think I'd like to show them to you now. Actually, this is the one that Brian was telling you about. Brian, was this is the image that they're going to be using for the Saarbrücken?
Yeah, that's the poster image, along with a Kate Bush image.
Oh yes.
There's a Kate Bush image as well, which is on billboards around Saarbrücken at the moment for everyone to look at as they drive past, of her being a nun, you know.
Oh yeah.
In a cornfield. Well,
right.
Sort of cornfield. Yeah, a sweet cornfield, I think. And then there's that one that Vaughan just showed you, which is the poster for my particular show in the festival at Saarbrücken.
This one. And as I say, we've sold quite a few of these through the channel, and a lot of people haven't seen this one before, and a lot of people have said they prefer this. They would have preferred this as the album cover, and indeed, also the other one that we've made available is this one. And a lot of people feel, I mean, guys, this just looks. They've all got a completely different feel, and of course, you know, the album cover we got was what the band chose, but it's very difficult because they're all great images, and then to try and choose one. But I mean, let's ask you the question: out of these two, which is your personal favourite out of these two?
Oh, God.
Well, you're not allowed to be biased on your own.
No, I'm not going to be too biased. I love them both. I mean, there's a lot of things to talk about this shoot as well, which I'm sure you're going to cover.
We're going to cover that at the end, absolutely.
There's quite a bit. I mean, to answer briefly that last statement by Vaughan was the fact that we were sent to Switzerland. This is not Photoshop territory. We actually went up that mountain.
Oh, you mean, Brian, this wasn't done in a studio? That's
was it?
We know that. Yeah.
And I actually went to a mountain, and you feel like, wow, if I'm all the way over in Switzerland and I'm up the mountain and we've got a hotel and there's three of us we're paying the bills for, plus the food, plus the air travel, then I better get plenty of material. It's not going to be coming back with one image, you know. I've got to get a number of images because they always want to make 12-inch singles. 12-inch singles were becoming very, very important at the time.
Yeah.
7-inch singles, which you probably know the series I did for that, the guy climbing up the pylon, same model. And they might want to do, you know, best of and all sorts of different releases, posters, you know, brochures, geek posters. There's so much needs to be covered. So I had to cover a lot of material, especially as we're costing a bit of money, you know.
Well, it's interesting also, as we talked last time, the budgets were available in those days. But now if we look at how we started off, let's go with the Speak and Spell album, which was the swan in the plastic. And of course, as legend has it, the band were like, what the hell? Yeah, we'll go with that. And then you released A Broken Frame, which was one of your most iconic images ever. And now they've gone, okay, he's definitely the man to work with. So you're definitely on board now. So by the time it comes to this, they definitely upped the ante, because let's look at the locations. When you did the Speak and Spell album, it was shot here in Rotherhithe. A Broken Frame was up the M11 here in the UK. And now it's all the way to Switzerland.
Exactly.
So tell us more about the model, and this was your assistant's brother?
Correct. Right? Well, what happened, as you all know, all you Depeche Mode fans, this is the beginning of the 80s. We used the same stylist that we'd used for A Broken Frame, who'd made that outfit for that lady on that cover. So she gathered all the material, i.e. the working material. Stuart Graham, who was my assistant at the time, really great assistant, his brother had just come back from the Falklands War. We'd gone into that stupid war with Argentina about the Falkland Islands. And he was a Marine, so he was incredibly fit and strong. And he just returned, and I think the war was 81, wasn't it, or something like that. So he's only been back a short period of time, probably out of work. So we gave him a modelling job. It was perfect. He was like a human tree, you know. He'd climb up the mountain with all our gear hanging off him. We got this flash equipment that was American, beautiful flash equipment that was American at the time, all battery operated, great reflectors on them, gave you a beautiful feeling of light. I can't remember the name of it. It's been so many years ago. And we had the cameras and everything. And of course, he was a great help.
Just to carry everything.
Just to carry. But the strange and the crazy thing about it, I don't know why we didn't say, well, we could buy it in Switzerland, was the fact we took a sledgehammer. In fact, Jackie Fry, the stylist, who, as I said before, styled these two people, i.e. the broken frame woman and this man, got a used, which is great, a used, not a new, a used sledgehammer. And we put, you know, the bin liners you wrap your rubbish in, you know. We wrapped it in a bin liner, a black bin liner, and took it to Switzerland. And of course, when that first came off the plane, I was the first down the steps towards the carousels where all your luggage goes round. And there, down the chute came the sledgehammer. And they, as you know, they're metal, those revolving. Bang, it went.
Because the first thing off the carousel was
exactly,
bang.
was the sledgehammer. And I looked across to the customs guards, the police, whatever. And I went, oh no. And of course they nailed us, you know, they grabbed us because of this crazy thing.
Yeah, because that was 83, so this was in the middle of those sort of turbulent times, you know. That.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I mean, obviously there's the IRA going on and with the bombs and everything.
That's right, yeah.
And of course they got us, but I mean, it was fine. They let us through, and that was the first occasion. So yeah, there were three of us. There was my assistant, Stuart Graham, the model, Stuart's brother, and me. The three of us up there in the mountains of Switzerland, opposite the Matterhorn.
Now that's interesting. So you've at the Matterhorn. So Daniel's gone to you and said, okay, we've got this idea, you know, of a worker on a mountain. Was it you who decided Switzerland? Because that's a big thing. Because imagine this. Imagine if they say, oh, we'll use a mountain here in the UK. You know, you could go up to Scotland or something.
Oh, yeah, but the fact, Snowdonia.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, the fact that someone made the decision, I want to do it in the Alps. Which, you know, which just goes to show the kind of budgets that were available in those days.
Yeah, I mean, you just don't get sent around anymore. On editorial, that is the magazine work, or the music business work is really, the finance is extremely tight. But they obviously were doing better. They had some hits. They obviously felt very confident, and their records were selling well. So they obviously had enough money to afford. I mean, we're not talking about loads of money to do this, but we're talking about enough money to do it.
Certainly more than a band would spend on an album cover these days.
Yeah, unless you were Elton John
of course,
the Beatles or the Stones or, you know, what's his name now? I can't remember these bands. But anyway, yeah.
But as I said, it is interesting that, you know, and obviously you can't remember, and maybe someone will remember, was who actually said, I want to go to Switzerland. Because, I mean, someone might go, oh, that's a bit out of budget, but wow, you know, if you got the budget to do that, because that, you know, as I say, this could have been shot at. I think it was you, Brian, because this is kind of your way of thinking. Well, I reckon they said, oh, can we just go up a hill somewhere in Scotland? And you were like, no, I want to go to the Alps.
I might have been.
That's my impersonation of you. I want to go to the Alps. Generic.
Maybe it could have been. I mean, the thing was, as you know, with a broken frame, the sky was fantastic. And when you start to put light on a subject and a landscape, as we do here, and as we did in a broken frame, you need a bit of interest in the sky. If you've got a grey sky, then once you put light on the model, it looks terribly lit and it looks awful.
Oh, I see.
You need some blue, you need some light going on in the landscape in order that you can marry your flash lights, in this case, and as a broken frame case, in and match it up to the general atmosphere that surrounds the model and fills the image you're creating. So I probably might have said that because I wanted some decent light.
I reckon it was you.
And England, I don't want no grey sky, you know.
I reckon it probably was you because we talked about it at the beginning. The band were young. They weren't that disinterested. Bearing in mind, as we talked in my last album review series, as I said, when they made this album, they were in their early 20s, and this is just a phenomenal piece of, you know, as far as engineering and songwriting and everything. But anyway, coming back to the photos. As I said, this was one that really I found is really breathtaking. And as you say with photography, clouds are your friend, but it's like you don't want a completely cloudy sky. You want that sort of combination. And what's also interesting, guys, remember I'm not a photographer, but as Brian will elaborate is, you know, a lot of this was, you know, in the eye of the beholder, so to speak, and they would capture this, and sometimes hopefully it would come out better than you imagined. But it had to be planned. So what I'm trying to say is you can't go back into the studio, go into Photoshop and like lighten things and move things around, because what you captured there was pretty much what you captured.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Of course, nothing was done to it.
So it was very difficult to actually... So in fact, how difficult would you say it would be today to shoot this image with the technology that's available to us today? It'd be a lot easier.
Oh, a piece of cake, yeah.
Really? Okay.
One, you wouldn't have gone to Switzerland.
Yeah. You would have done this with a green screen and just scanned it.
Probably, yeah. It would look crap, really. Yeah. It would. I mean, the beauty of these images, I mean, not just my images in these cases of Broken Frame and this one, and other photographers' images of the time, I would say. It's just that they're real, you know. They're absolutely real. They were captured there. And you can't replace that feeling. You can't. You can try it by bolting things together, but it never quite comes off, really. Yeah, it does in the cinema. You see, be able to bury lots of special effects in the cinema with all the action there, but in a still, you just can't bury it, really. Although a lot of photographers think you can, but they're wrong.
So, Brian, was this an easy photo shoot? Okay, obviously there were a lot of logistics involved. It was going to Switzerland, going up the cable car, but was it? Let's say, as far as, or let's take the 3 albums to date. You did Speak and Spell, The Broken Frame, and Construction Time. Which of those 3, obviously they all posed their own challenges, but which of those 3 was the most difficult, and which one was the easiest of those 3?
Okay, let's go through it all. Extremely easy, obviously, Speak and Spell. It was in my studio, control situation, all the time in the world. So
you had complete control over all the essence. Yeah, that's right.
Then we move on to A Broken Frame, where we had all the weather going crazy around us. We're under a lot of pressure. Obviously, just getting to the landscape where we're the cornfield, that is, where we're going to shoot it, and the expense involved. It had to be shot, really. There was too much to lose if we had come back and said, sorry, we couldn't do it. So there's a lot of pressure on it, and thank the Lord that the clouds opened for that very brief period of time. So that was quite stressful. And the third one is the fact that obviously I've got to live with the success of that Broken Frame. Broken Frame was rapidly becoming a major photograph. Rapid, as you know from the previous talk, it was regarded as the finest photograph taken in the UK that year. As I said to you, I went on the stage of the Albert Hall to collect the gift, you know, for producing, or sorry, making the best photograph of the year out of all photography done in the country. So the pressure was on. Obviously, the band would have loved it. Obviously, Daniel Miller would have been excited about it. So I would have had total support for this third one.
Absolutely, yeah.
Total support. So I got to produce something really good.
I see.
So I was obviously under a lot of pressure. I think the stress was a different stress.
Yes.
But it was phenomenal, really. And I wanted to do a great one because I wanted to really build this up, you know. And as I said to you in early programs, is that the only way we had a chance of speaking about ourselves and why don't you work with us as individual photographers was people seeing our work. And there's nothing better than the music industry, because it was in all the record shops, mums, dads, uncles, cousins, family, friends, they all saw your work. So and everybody who wants to give you a job saw your work, both in the music press, in the record shops, everywhere. So, you know, the pressure was immense, actually. So it had to be good.
this was the time before the internet, and there are pros and cons to that. And one of the sort of downsides to that was you could not sort of self-promote yourself. But one of the upsides was there wasn't this bombardment of information. So, you know, like these days where people are bombarded with information wherever they look. In those days, you didn't have the internet. So the only way you would see it would be on the telly, you know, on posters. So these things could really, okay, I mean, they are great pieces of artwork by themselves. But I'm saying is it will be easier for things to stand out those days because you go into a shop and you'd see the poster. You know, people were sort of like more outward looking at billboards and rather than looking at their phones. If I'm making sense.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of illustration used in album covers, of course. A lot of illustration and not photography.
Yeah.
Graphics and illustration, fantastic album covers. Some of the greatest done by my friend Barney Bubbles, a genius, produced incredible album covers with no photography. And then there was photography, but there were a lot of photographers, please forgive me for saying this, that were not that creative. So we'd just capture a normal image that would sit on the cover.
You're talking about Anton Corbijn again. Cut.
And they would just, you know, there were very few photographers that had the capability of producing, can we say, a creative image that they thought up, essentially themselves, and captured it. So if you produced a good photographic image in those days, because we weren't bombarded, as Vaughan just said, they would really stand out. And these images for Depeche Mode at that point in time really stood out. And they have stood the test of time incredibly well, which I'm excited about. So I never knew they would stand the test of time. It was another job. I put every effort into it, and I wanted them to be good for both my own benefit and the band's benefit. And they have stood the test of time. They don't look old-fashioned and all that, you know.
So this was a memorable experience going up the going. And how long did this take? Did it take were you up there for a couple of days, but done in a day?
A day.
So and you were, and once again, as with the other ones, you clearly had in mind this is what you had in mind.
Obviously we knew that it's going to be a worker with a sledgehammer, and that was all. And then we had to create images based upon that. Obviously it's a very dynamic setup of a worker with a sledgehammer, and obviously the influences come into play. You know, the influences from both Russia and Germany through the 20s and 30s start to feel their presence, and obviously looking slightly up at the worker gives them an heroic position rather than being sort of humble and, you know, the boss is going to tell me off type of worker. He's like a very strong worker.
It is a very glorious kind of look.
And also, obviously, like the mountains in the distance, and the sledgehammer would come down on the mountain. Obviously, if you swung it, I mean, that's just a slight aesthetic thing.
He wasn't exactly on a cliff edge here, but I mean, how dangerous was this? There was obviously a certain amount of risk.
Yeah, there's a certain amount of risk. I mean, obviously, there was not only me, but there was my assistant Stuart. He'd be up there as well, because you can see, you know, light is coming from various angles. Obviously, I think there was the light from the front onto here would maybe from a light on a stand, I would have thought. The light from the back might have been a light from a stand, or it could be handheld, and it would have had a gelatin, you know, like a warm filter on it to give it some warmth from the back here. And what else would have come into play? He would have, obviously due to the fact he was a Royal Marine, which, as you know, are pretty fearless soldiers, he would not have been petrified or scared of being in this, can we say, rather vulnerable position. Maybe the layman, an average person, would think, oh, I'm not going to stand up there.
Well, it's not true that I'm going to use Fletch to do this. Swinging a banana. Cut. No, we'll leave that in. I've thrown you, Brian.
Yeah.
And so, Brian, if there's any sort of like geeky, because there are a lot of geeks that watch my channel, what type of film did you use for this? If it's
I mean, at the time, as I mentioned on the other programs, we shot everything on transparency. That is a positive film material, as you probably know. Everyone used to use them at the time to project their slides onto a screen or whatever. That's what we shot with in the music industry. We didn't use colour negative or anything like that. We used positive film colour film. And the two films I would use would be one that you would use indoors in tungsten lights, tungsten are the constant burning lights, like sort of this one here is pointing at me. And we would use Ektachrome 50 ASA. For outdoor shooting, we would have used Ektachrome 64 ASA, which is a daylight film, because it's all about colour temperature. As you know, tungsten light is warm light. Daylight temperature is cool light, you know. So therefore, these two films we would use in accordance where we were shooting. Outdoors, 64 ASA, indoors, 50 ASA. And we would collect, or can we say set up these images and get them looking exactly how we wanted them by using a Polaroid back on the Hasselblad camera, which, as you know, is a square camera, produces 6 centimeters by 6 centimeter images. And we would Polaroid it first to make sure all the light values everywhere were marrying together beautifully. Nothing was overtaking anything, and they were all sitting together, welded together, both the flash and the daylight. And then we'd put take the Polaroid back off the camera and then put the film back on and shoot the film.
Now, of course, those batteries and the technology was not as advanced as what it is today. But how much? Obviously, the batteries are quite heavy, aren't they?
They were like old motorcycle batteries and things.
This is the thing: is you're up there, and it's like how much power did you have for? Because there's a certain amount of time that you'd run out of light, and you had to get it done in a certain amount of time before the weather changes, or you run out of light, or.
You're getting into technical things now.
Yeah.
When you're working like this, if there are some geeks watching, if some people who aren't geekish, go away and put the kettle on and come back, is the fact that when you're mixing flash, as you know, flash goes at its own speed. Probably these flashes were going off at 1,000th of a second. But then you have all the daylight, which depends on color temperature. So flash depends on aperture. That's the little hole where the light goes onto the film in the lens, you know, and hits the piece of film, like the lens, like the little hole there, or a wide hole. So we try and pull as much depth of field as we could. Obviously, he's too close and the man is too far away to actually get them both in focus. So obviously you choose the model to be mostly sharp, to be sharp rather, and the mountain to be acceptably sharp. So you get a shutter speed, so you're going to use like a little hole like f/16 or something like that, which is really small. And then you'd find what the shutter speed would be for f/16. Probably up this mountain at that point of time, probably 125th, I would think. And therefore, but then you'd have to get your flashes to be able to give you around about f/16. So they fit with the exposure of the daylight, fits with the flash exposure. So they come together. One's not overtaking the other. They sort of blend together, roughly f/16 for the flash. So you set your camera at f/16, 125th to cover the daylight, and f/16 to cover the daylight, and f/16 to cover the flash. So everything's in unison, is going to work together and blend together. Regarding time of day, well, you just come down in shutter speed. That's all there is to it, really. Probably you just come down to a 60th, and then a 30th, and then a 15th. You know, you can start to have longer shutter speeds as the light starts to fade. Obviously, if you're going to start to come down in aperture setting from 16 to 11 or to 8 or something like that, then the mountain's going to go further and further out of focus. And I always shot everything. One of the interesting things is, apart from Speak and Spell, virtually every single photograph I ever took on my Hasselblad was with a 150mm lens, which is a short telephoto. And in fact, it's still normally the case now. I shoot everything with a telephoto lens. It's just my way of shooting, and I try and use a very, very small f-stop, well, large in number but small in a little hole that the light's passing through, in order to get maximum depth of field, you know. So it gives you the illusion that the photograph is taken with a standard lens or a normal lens because there's so much sharpness, but it's not at all.
Well, Brian, I mean, for the photographers out there, I think that's fantastic for them to. I'm sure they'll understand a lot. I'm just intrigued by that. we talked about this on the last few episodes, that you're an artist, but you're also very technically minded, which helps, because we always talk about artistic people are usually not very technically minded. So I think because you're quite good with maths and things like that. And so
it comes in really helpful.
That does help, just as a
in the analog days, we had no computerization. It was essential.
So because these days the computer kind of can think for you. It's like just aim it and shoot. Whereas there it was like everything had to be self-focused. Everything was manual.
Everything had to be spot on. Everything. Even printing. It's wonderful seeing these re-releases of this Depeche Mode work, because they're so superior. Printing and the glaze on the front really brings the sharpness and everything out beautifully. Because printing was so bad in those days, the early 80s, the late 70s. And you had to create images that were so powerful that that worked. However badly printed they were, they would still have power. You couldn't produce things that had complexity and busyness, because the reproduction was awful. So you produce maybe images with minimal information within them.
I see.
And a strong aesthetic, and strong light, And those are the ones that really worked at that period of time, because printing technology, well, it's either the printers didn't care or print technology wasn't very good. And in this country anyway, in England. But now it's just amazing now, of course.
Well, I think that brings us perfectly into the prints that we're going to talk about now, Brian. We talk about
the posters.
The posters. Now, Brian has to keep correcting me. I'm sorry, as I say, I'm a music guy, so then it's good that he keeps correcting me. There's a difference between a print and a poster. Yeah. Now, Brian does, as I say, you can purchase some of Brian's original prints by contacting him at brian@briangriffin.co.uk. Now, if you guys know that some of you have contacted me just wanting to get hold of some of Brian's iconic artwork at a more affordable price. And it's something that I've thanked Brian for before, and I'm going to thank him again for making this exclusive collection available to my subscribers and to the people. It's just nice that you've made this available to people out there who want a part of your legacy and a bit of the Depeche Mode legacy, but couldn't afford the original prints.
Yeah.
So these are available. So we've had these posters printed. Now the reason I get posters and prints mixed up is because these look so good to me, I can't tell the difference.
They are very good. They are very good.
So what I'm going to pull up here, guys, these are the approvals that we got back from the printers. And just coming back to what Brian said earlier about printing being really bad in the 80s, it could be like these days there's so much competition. So I think you've got to just be at the top of your game in order to...
And computerization has helped printing, it helped it immensely, really.
Absolutely. So so we've got these are the original approvals. Maybe we'll auction these off one day, Brian. These are the original approvals. And what these are, guys, these are the approvals that came back from our printer. Now these were printed by Brian's preferred printer. Brian is as humble and as sweet as he is. He's not easily pleased when it comes to his artwork. He's very, very particular. So I'm happy to say that these prints or these posters, these images have been approved by Brian. Yeah. Now you must remember, you can buy posters online from other sources. You can buy really big ones. However, what you're getting here, guys, and I don't want this to sound like sales pitch, but I'm going to tell you the facts. These are the most accurate reproductions you could get anywhere. I mean, these are approved by Brian Griffin personally. So there's no oversaturation. As I said, I'm not using the right terminology. If you look at some of the posters that you can buy, sometimes they're like really bright, or they're hyped, or the sharpness is exaggerated or whatever. But what I'm saying to you guys is what you're getting here is personally recommended by the man here himself. So I'm going to show you what we've got available in this collection. So,
you hold some?
Oh, that's fine.
Okay.
I'm going to hold them up and get you to describe. Now, guys, Brian has made a selection, these 5 images, exclusively available to my channel.
That's right.
And this first one, which I believe no one has ever seen before, is a black and white version of Speak and Spell. As I say, I didn't know what this would look like in black and white, but when I saw it in black and white, I was pleasantly surprised. So, Brian, what are your feelings on this in black and white?
Yeah, I'm really pleased to have given your program, this exclusivity.
I'm very pleased. I mean, so
it's really difficult. I mean, this image was the one that was like castigated, was really frowned upon, was really laughed at, and it's the one that's really coming up incredibly powerful. Especially, as I say, with the vulnerability of wildlife now to plasticity.
Well, no one's laughing at you now.
No one's laughing anymore. And it's becoming one of the most famous ones now.
Well, it is interesting. It is interesting, Brian. If you look at this, and obviously this is a reissue, so obviously the image quality is a lot better.
And by the way, it is on film. It's shot on black and white film. It's not changed from a color digitally.
Yes.
It is actually from a black and white negative. This print.
Yeah. In other words, guys, in layman's terms, he didn't just put it into a computer and take the color out. This is actual from a black and white. And it's interesting. This is, if you look at the original color and then to see it in black and white like that, it's quite fascinating. What I must mention about these posters, guys, is that Brian and I went to painstaking attention to detail to get these reproductions absolutely to the T. What you'll see is they are 31 by 31 centimeters. Now, the reason for that is we wanted them to be the exact same size as a vinyl cover, as a vinyl sleeve.
Yeah.
So and then we have a border around here. Now, the whole idea with these guys is when you purchase these is if you're going to make that kind of investment, we'd recommend that you have it framed. They look stunningly if you frame them. So you've got the 31 by 31 centimeters. The actual image size is 26 by 26 centimeters. And what this gives Brian enough space to sign his autograph. Now, Brian's had to practice because he's got the really flamboyant, like boom, boom, boom. So he's had to do a few practice runs on the and
personal dedication. Yeah.
Now, guys, as you know, when you buy these, there is what separates this offer from anywhere in the world. Wow, is the fact that there is a personal dedication on all these images. So if your name's John, you place your order and you just tell me what you want Brian to write, and Brian will write to John, best regards, Brian Griffin, or whatever you'd like him to sign.
Exactly. Now, it could be to your girlfriend, your wife, whatever.
And in fact, these would be I don't want to jump on the Christmas bandwagon, but these would be lovely gifts for for someone if you've got a family member who's a Depeche Mode fan. How lovely to wake up and go, oh, this is a Depeche Mode print from Brian Griffin. So Brian will sign it anywhere you want. You can even sign it on the back if you want. For I think collectors usually do that. But anyway, that was like just a general chat about the prints. I want the posters. I want to show you the next image. So that's the first one. This one we're calling Spick and Spell Black and White for obvious reasons. The next image which Brian has made available to us. Now this one is, I believe this is one of Daniel Miller's personal favourites.
And we never saw it until the latest release, did we? You can show that.
This is absolutely stunning, yeah.
Have you got the album here?
I've got the album, yeah. You can just hold that up, please, Brian. And I've got the vinyl here on the... Oh, that's right. This is the... Yeah.
This is the gatefold, yeah.
And this is the...
And inside, yeah.
And the inside was... was it on the back?
Where was it? I saw it.
I saw it on the vinyl here.
I saw it on your vinyl.
Yeah, it was on my vinyl. I think if you pull the sleeve out...
there it is.
Yeah, so it's actually... If you've got the gatefold reissue, and you'll see it's actually that one. And... Yeah, that's the exact one. Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brian.
Pleasure.
So that's image number 2, which is part of this collection. Now here are 2 that are very popular as well. Actually, I call a lot of them are sort of selling equally well. But we'll probably know by the end of the year which are the most popular. Now, this one is image number 3, and we're calling this one Construction Time Again. We're just calling this the White Sky version. And it's absolutely stunning, this one. A lot of the people who've seen this album or this image have said, oh, that would have been much better for the album cover. But anyway, it's a personal opinion, so my recommendation is get them both.
Yeah, and you got the other one.
I've got the other one. So this is the other one, which we're calling the Construction Time Again Blue. You've got blue sky. So this is more similar to the actual original album cover. But if I just bring them closer, let's say they're absolutely stunning. And then the fifth and final image in this collection is the standard image from Some Great Reward. And it's interesting to see it sort of without the writing and the lettering and everything. Yeah, absolutely stunning. Now I just want to show you one more example. So here's one we did earlier, just to demonstrate what a signed one would look like. This is one that has been autographed. This one says to Kev from Brian, and Kev is our printer.
Yeah.
And Brian just did that too. So essentially what you'll have is you'll have the artwork, and Brian will sign it according to your request. And as I say, when you get them, definitely have it framed. It'll look stunning in your studio, your living room, or, you know, anywhere really. So guys, these 5 images which Brian has made exclusive to my channel, I'm very grateful. And I want to ask you, Brian, just put you on the spot. Why did you choose these 5 particular images?
I chose them, Vaughan, because I wanted you and your channel to have a special collection. I wanted them to be images that are not universally seen or universally available. Something special, something to be cherished, really. And I also wanted them to be affordable by all the fans. I wanted them not like special prints, you know, that are limited or anything, which I have to admit are quite a lot of money, but to be affordable. So you've got a lovely print that you put on the wall for a reasonable amount of money.
And I'm very grateful, as I say. You can get in touch with Brian if you want to buy one of the original prints. But this was really done to fulfill the need of the average fan who wanted to, say, own a bit of history and to be able to afford it. And I'm happy to say, guys, that Brian has made these available exclusively to the Vaughan George channel at the very, very reasonable price of £65 an image, which is about, what's that, I've got it written down, it's about 72 euros, and it's about $79 US. So just get in touch with me on info@vorti.com, and you can, you know, I'll walk you through the process. And guys, one more thing, just to show the amount of effort and attention to detail that we've gone into. These posters will be delivered to you in these custom-made, they look like bazooka tubes. Now these have been especially cut to be the perfect fit for these. Now these are up to 3 times thicker than normal postal tubes. Normal postal tubes are quite thin, and guys, I cannot tell you how important it is to me personally and to Brian that these things get to you in immaculate condition. Not only are these the most accurate reproductions of these images anywhere to be found, but what's interesting is when you put it in a postal tube this size, you need only fold it. You know, it's not like those tubes where you need to roll them really tight. So it goes in there, and we line them with tissue paper, stapled. I'm getting geeky now, but I'm really passionate about this offer, and I'd like to say once again, Brian, thank you so much for making this offer. As I say, guys, this is not available anywhere else. Just to have the exclusivity of Brian personally signing this is, I think, a dream come true for a lot of fans, as a lot of people have said. Right, Mr. Griffin, thank you so much for coming down once again to talk to us about this. I really appreciate your time, and as do the channel members.
I love it. It's great fun.
Brian, you're off to Saarbrücken soon, is that right?
I am, yeah. For my opening of my show, yeah.
That's right.
I'll be there over, I think it's the weekend of the 21st, 22nd, 23rd of this month, September. I'll be there if you want to come and say hello and come and see my show. It's in the Parliament of Saarland in Saarbrücken.
Absolutely. As I say, and we talked about this last time, Brian, you are so famous in Germany and Poland. Those are like the countries where you're most famous.
Absolutely.
And in America, actually. You'll be surprised. A lot of my American fans...
Oh, yeah, they know me there. They know me everywhere, actually. They know me in Reunion Island as well.
Yes, we sold a couple of prints to Reunion Island, yeah.
Posters.
Posters. Cut! I'm going to get slapped. Guys, Brian, thank you so much once again for coming on. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this. Please leave your comments below. Get in touch with me. And I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. You take care, guys.
Bye.